Alrighty, everybody. Of course, in true fashion, my tech was not working, and I attempted to get into Zoom and then go live. Didn't work. Attempted to go straight into Facebook and go live from my desktop. Didn't work. Laptop didn't work. So I'm currently on my phone. Anyway, hence why I'm 23 minutes late. And I may have said some choice words and may have screamed and had like a little mini meltdown. But with that being said, I'm going to make this quick. So, by next week, by next Tuesday, I should have the tech stuff sorted out. I hope to God so. Anyway, today's topic, Trish will not be joining us today. I am flying solo. Today's topic is FodMaps. Trish had mentioned that she's doing the FodMap Diet, and she has a couple of clients that are doing the FodMap Diet, and kind of thought that it would be, I think everybody already knows I'm obsessed with all things, the gut, poop, all that jazz. So I thought it'd be kind of a good topic to start everybody out on. First, before I start, I just want to show y'all something really cool. So for my husband's birthday back in November, I got him a 3D printer, and one of those things, they're not cheap, but I didn't know if he would actually use it or utilize it, or it'd just be a great idea and then it would just sit. Anyway, after about a month of it sitting, he finally got into it, and he's been making all kinds of stuff. But I told him, I was like, I'm the one that bought you the printer, and you still have yet to make me anything. But I just wanted to show y'all what he made me. He made me this is a little kettlebell pencil holder for my desk. It's very cute. I put pencils on both sides. Anyway, so now that y'all seen that, and it only took, I think, like 2 days for it to print and build up until that. FodMaps. What are FodMaps? So FodMaps, I have some notes, and I'm probably going to butcher some of these long names, but going to go into the technical terms of things. FodMaps, FodMap is an acronym. FodMap is an acronym for a class of carbohydrates that are called fermentable short-chain carbohydrates. Now, what does FodMap mean? FodMap means the FodMap, FODMAP. F is fermentable. O is oleosaccharide. Wait a minute. I'm gonna butcher this. Oligosaccharide. Okay, all right. Sorry, I sound like I'm slightly crazy. Oligosaccharide, disaccharide, monosaccharide, and polyol. That's another one that I was totally gonna butcher. Anyway, the reason why people would a lot of people ask, like, what is like a FodMap diet? What is and people would restrict FodMaps. They restrict FodMaps intentionally to try to source out like issues with the gut, specifically for a reason. Basically, you restrict FodMaps. So you have foods that are low FODMAP, high FODMAP, and whenever someone says that they're doing a FODMAP diet, or sometimes you hear it called like an elimination diet, that is essentially like they call it a low FODMAP diet, where you would only eat low FODMAPs and you would avoid high FODMAPs. And the reason is you avoid the high FODMAPs, avoid the higher FODMAPs to reduce overall inflammation and promote healing in the gut. And then you actually strategically add the FODMAP or the higher FODMAP foods in to try to source like the foods that will be problematic or causing you some issues. Now, with that being said, FODMAPs are like the science behind them. They are, like I said, the fermentable short chain carbohydrates, which two things. They are a sugar molecule that are linked together in a chain. That's one. And two is they're fermentable fermentable by the bacteria in our gut. And basically what that means is the molecules in the chains need to be broken down into single molecules to be absorbed in the small intestine. FODMAPs can't be broken down they can't be, because they're the double chain, they can't be broken down in the small intestine. Therefore, the small intestine will hold water to kind of try to push it and move it through and push it into the large intestine. Now, if we ever have any type of dysbiosis, I'm gonna call it dysbiosis, which basically dysbiosis is a simple term for an imbalance in the gut, and whether that is imbalance in the gut, whether that's if any of y'all have ever had any type of digestive issues and you go to the doctor, and I'm going to say a Western medicine doctor, and you go see like a gastroenterologist, and they diagnose you with IBS. IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. That is essentially, basically, they're saying something's wrong with your gut, but I don't really know what's wrong with your gut, but there's something wrong with your gut. But anytime you're diagnosed with IBS or SIBO, which is small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, a low FODMAP diet can be beneficial. I saw Jen was joining us, and then Jeannie is joining us, and Colleen is joining us, and Amber and Amelia. Okay, all right. I'm throwing off my game, y'all, because I'm having to do it on my phone, and my phone screen looks like it's like super blurry. But anyway, I'll figure it out by next week. Y'all know, like I said, true fashion, me and Trish both, we have the issues with the tech stuff. I had a client who she was using the Google sheet, and she was like, "Oh, the calories aren't like, do you?" I'm like, I have no clue. Like, I don't know. I'll pay someone to fix it. I have no clue. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Anyway, okay. So that would be the reason. So essentially, it is the double chain. It's the double chain molecule, but it cannot be broken down in the small intestine. So that is the reason why, that is essentially the reason why people would do the low FODMAP diet if they have any type of imbalance in the gut, because whenever it gets pushed to the large intestine, the bacteria in the large intestine in the colon, pretty much it's like a feeding frenzy. They feed off of this fermentable food. So if there's any type of imbalance, it just kind of keeps it growing. Let's put it in like easy terms. Now, generally broken down, IBS, like I said, SIBO, small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. And basically what that is small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. If any of y'all have ever, well, I'm sure y'all have heard the terms, but that is we have good bacteria and bad bacteria. So we have like opportunist bacteria and we have beneficial bacteria in our gut. Opportunist bacteria is the bad bacteria. Beneficial is the good bacteria. We need both. We absolutely 100% need both. But when there is an imbalance between the two, say like too much bad, not enough good, vice versa, not enough bad, then it can cause issues with overall digestion. But with that being said, like with small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, there is an imbalance, and usually that is the imbalance of too much bad, not enough good. The bad bacteria has kind of taken over and has kind of overgrown, just like overgrown the forest a little bit, which can lead to like bad things. And if any of y'all have ever actually been diagnosed with it or experienced it, you'll know that it's pretty gnarly, and the symptoms are pretty bad. Now when you follow, for anybody that has ever followed a low FODMAP diet or the elimination, there's 3 phases of the elimination, or there's 3 phases of the diet. There's the elimination, there's the reintroduction, and then there's the maintenance. The big thing with the low FODMAP diet is you never want to be on low FODMAP for a long period of time. It is not meant to be on it forever. It is meant to pinpoint the foods that you may be sensitive to or may have a problem with, and then avoid those. That would be in the maintenance phase, but you would avoid those and bring everything else back in, because our diets are essentially made to, our diets are made to have variety. Like, we want variety in the micronutrients. We want variety in the foods. Like, we don't want to, eat chicken, rice, and broccoli for all of our meals. So it's not meant to be long term. And typically the time frame for doing an elimination diet is anywhere between 2 to 6 weeks. I'm going to say, I think 2 weeks, you kind of start noticing a difference. Depending on how severe someone's symptoms are, I don't think 2 weeks is long enough to like truly kind of clear, kind of clear the fields a little bit, to start bringing things back in and bring down overall inflammation enough. I'm going to say 4 weeks is what I usually do with my clients. I usually do 4 weeks. Avoid the high FODMAP foods for 4 weeks, and then you start, so that's the elimination phase, and then you start the reintroduction phase. Now, the biggest mistake that I see a lot of people do is they do not, 5 days. Colleen said, what about 5 days? 5 days make it work. So 5 days better than no days. Technically you could do for 2 weeks. Technically you could do 2 weeks. And that, could be, provide some benefit. But the biggest mistake that I see a lot of people do is they'll do elimination phase. And let's say they make it 4 weeks, or let's say they make it 6 weeks. And then it's like, after that period is done, they don't do the reintroduction properly. And when you do the reintroduction, you want to pick one food. And what I tell my clients is, because they'll ask me, I'm like, pick, like, it's your choice, and I usually suggest pick what you have missed the most. And ironically, majority of the time, it is usually garlic or onions. Like, I've had people that are like, onions, I'm going to try onions. I'm like, okay. Like, for me, it would be like, give me some milk back. Like, I want some milk. I want some dairy. Anyway, but you pick one thing at a time. One thing, you would eat that food for 3 days. The first day you would eat it in a small quantity, monitor your symptoms. If no issue, the next day you eat a slightly higher quantity of it. So say like with onions, say like you choose onions. The first day you would try, raw onions, say like a quarter of a cup. Monitor your symptoms. If you have a negative response to it, then I would wait a day or two and then maybe try it cooked and see if that's an issue, because sometimes cooked is not an issue and raw is an issue. But ideally, you would eat a small quantity, say like a fourth of a cup, and then the next day you're going to increase that, and then the next day you're going to increase that. After 3 days, if you have no issues, you're good. Onions are great. You keep it and you move on to something else. Now, if you notice, say for example, if you do onions and say after the third day and you have increased a little bit, you're starting to notice a little bit of a negative response, then that typically means that there is a threshold issue, meaning you can tolerate onions fine in a certain quantity, but you wouldn't want to eat it every single day. Meaning over a certain threshold, you're going to have a negative response to it. But after the 3 days, let's just assume onions are great. You've increased the amount, then you move on to a different food. Now, let's say, for example, you move on to garlic next, and you immediately notice a negative response the first day with just a little bit. If you notice a negative response the first day, then I would wait. Like it's just like obvious. Then I would take it out. I would wait. You want to wait 3 days tops to kind of get the symptoms back down, and then try something different. If you don't do it or if you don't do it correctly, you can kind of start getting confused and you won't know what is what. Meaning, let's say onions are good, you try garlic today, and say you try garlic, you get a negative response, and then tomorrow you're like, okay, garlic's out, or I'm going to try dairy, and you try dairy tomorrow, you're still getting a response. It could still be some residual, it still could be some residual symptoms or effects from the garlic. So in turn, you're thinking, well, dairy is a problem too, but it may not be a problem. So if you find one food is a problem, then you drop it. You'll wait 2 or 3 days, kind of gets basically more or less to have a clean slate, and then you move to something new. But the whole purpose of, so the elimination, the reintroduction, and then the maintenance. So you would ideally have a list of the things that are problematic. So, okay, all right, I know I can't do garlic. I can't do dairy. I can do onions and, certain quantity, whatever. And then you have your maintenance of these are the foods that I'm going to avoid until, my gut and my digestive system is back rebalanced and is back to 100%. I will say that a lot of foods, just because you have to avoid something now does not mean that you necessarily have to avoid it forever. And there are foods that if you do have a negative, let's say if it's a threshold issue, don't feel like you can never ever eat them again, or just because you had a negative response. If you respond after a certain quantity, then it's probably something you shouldn't eat every day. You probably are fine eating it a couple of times a week, just not every single day. Anyway, so like I said, the biggest mistake that I see a lot of people do is they don't do that reintroduction properly. So it's almost like they'll try too many things, have some symptoms, and then really not have clarity as to what is the problem and what's not. And that can lead to either you're avoiding too many things that you don't have to, or in turn you just say, screw it. Like I don't have the patience and the bandwidth to do this anymore. And then you just bring it all back. And then that whole 4 weeks, 6 weeks, however long, 5 days, if you're calling, you lasted 5 days. Basically that 5 days is for nothing. You did it for nothing, because then you just say screw it and then you just go back. Or, like I said, the complete opposite. You avoid things that you don't have to avoid. Because, I have clients that ask me all the time. They're like, oh, should I eat, such. I'm like, do you have a dietary issue with it? Like, if you don't, then I'm not a proponent of avoiding, any foods. Yes, Colleen said she definitely messed up the reintroduction when she tried it years ago. And I agree. And the problem with the reintroduction, like if you don't do it properly and you mess up the reintroduction, then like I said, it was all in vain. Like you didn't even source the problems. And then you just get to a point you're just like, whatever, add it all back in, and and you're kind of back at square one again. Just the reminder though, the low FodMap diet is not intended to be permanent. It's not intended to be forever. Like I would not, suggest doing it long term. So Colleen, we can do it. I could make it easy for you. Dumb it down. Oh, and, I will say for me and a strategy that I do with a lot of clients, and there's a ton of resources about it, or there's tons of resources that you can use with doing the low FODMAP protocol. I would suggest, I personally do better. I guess I'm just like a little kid. Like you tell me things that I can't do, then I want to do it. I personally find that I get less overwhelmed, and I've used this strategy with a lot of clients of, rather than seeing the long list of everything that you can't eat, I think it's better to just look and say, okay, like here's the list of everything you can eat. Like eat from this list. And you'll quickly realize some of the regular things that are in everything that you have to avoid, which garlic and onions are the two big ones that everybody's like, oh, like I don't know if I could do this. And it's always garlic and onions. But I will say that nowadays, like Fodi has like a whole like condiment sauces. Like you can buy pasta sauce that doesn't have FODMAPs. You can buy salsa that doesn't have FODMAPs. Like they just have like tons and tons of options now. But I personally do find of having like a shopping list of, here's your shopping list. Eat from this list is a little bit better of, here's this long list of things, to avoid, because it can be quite overwhelming because like little things like raspberries are low FODMAP, but blackberries are high FODMAP, and, the average person be like, well, what the heck? Like blackberries, like they're great. Like they shouldn't be, problematic, but unfortunately, that's just how it goes. Okay. So some of my favorite, resources for like recipes and stuff, I cannot talk. I'm sorry. One of my favorite resources is the website funwithoutfodmaps.com. Tons and tons of recipes. And it's easy to remember, Fun Without FODMAPs. And it's got like a little heart. And then there's FodMapEveryday.com. And then a little bit yummy.com. They have like tons and tons of low FODMAP recipes that are good. And then you have the FodMap.com, which is kind of like the official site. There actually is an app. The Monash FODMAP has an app that I think it's like $7 or $8, but it's whenever I was doing it, I found a bunch of free apps, but I mean, sometimes you pay for what you get. You get something free, and it's going to work like it's free. So, if you know what I mean. Anyway, but there is the Monash FODMAP app, which I think it's like $7 or $8, but it's very in depth where it kind of shows you like, because there are certain foods that are considered high FODMAP in certain quantities. So rather than, like if you wanted to be technical and be like, I can have some blackberries and like X amount grams or whatever, technically you could do that. I find that's just kind of too much work for me, to think about and to be all specific. So anyway, all right, Colleen, I'm going to shoot you a list, and I really, really apologize for the technical issues and being 24 minutes late. I'll fix this by next time because this is weird. I think it's the first time I've ever done a live on my phone. So the screen looks all blurry and all that. But anyway, y'all have a great week. And if y'all have so first class, of course, the Hot Topic Tuesday couldn't go down without some technical issues. But if y'all have some requests for future things, post it in the group, and Trish and I will reconvene together next week. And y'all have a great week.